My name's Trevor, and I'm going to be your facilitator as we work through this masterclass around networking. You are all going to meet your mentors. Let's go to our first, Dr. Ian Cook. Can you please briefly introduce yourself and what your role in the research translation and commercialisation process is, please?
I'm Ian Cook. I'm the CEO of the Cooperative Research Centre for Mental Health, which is a 19-party consortium of academic and private sector organisations, which is essentially trying to discover biomarkers that can be developed into objective decision tools for clinical practice and mental health. So things like diagnostics, prognostics, theranostic tests, to take the uncertainty out of mental health practice and get a reasonably confident prediction as to the trajectory of disease, and to get a degree of surety about whether or not the drugs that they are going to be treated with are likely to work for them or not. My role is CEO, so I have to essentially manage the whole organisation, keep everybody together, as happy as they can be, make sure that the budgets get spread in an appropriate way to maximise the output, and help build the relationships with other organisations outside that will help take the technology that we develop and commercialise it and put it back into the community to actually achieve an impact for patients, their carers and the community.
Excellent.
And if you want the one thing I suggest, which I think is your next question, if you're thinking of trying to get into this stuff, you have to prepare yourselves. So don't think that you can just go and be a researcher and magically someone will turn into something else. You've got to do the work beforehand. And the other part is always be as good as you can at what you're doing when you're trying to make a change. So don't try and make a transition to something else without a stellar background in what you're doing to start with.
Excellent, thank you. Have a round of applause.
Hi,
Thank you.
so I'm Lena Miloradovic. I'm a project management professional. I've been at CSL for many years in the project management area of the research and development function. So I've worked with many different project teams over the years to really bring together all of the people who are working, from research all the way through to development in bringing vaccines to market. So project management is all about, just that, bringing everyone and everything together. And I guess my piece of advice would be to start with the end in mind. Consider where it is that we need to go, where we want to be, and then put together all of the requirements that will be required to get there. So, and there's a lot for vaccine development. There are many quality and regulatory requirements that, of course, must be met through the clinical trial process. Once the proof of principle has been established. So it's quite a long journey, to the end. Thank you.
Excellent. Can I ask you one more question, seeing from a project management background, and I am as well? What are the challenges they'll actually face when they start getting involved in projects over here, for those who are starting out?
What are challenges? Well, there are, many things, of course, that can go, wrong or don't go as planned with projects, or sometimes the external environment will change, and that will require a rethink about the plan and whether, we continue to be on the right track. So often there will be, conflict management, will be involved. Risk management is also a very important consideration, through the planning and execution process. We want to really make sure that we give the projects the best chance of success, and to do that, all things need to be considered, and changes do come along all the time that need to be worked through.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. A round of applause. And the same two questions, and that is a bit of background about yourself, please,
Sure.
and of course the role you play. And then what kind of information would you give, or what support would you give the people who are here today who are starting out?
Okay, thanks. So my name is Paul Davies. I'm at CSL Limited. I'm the Director of R&D Strategy and Portfolio Management. At CSL we spend approximately $500 million a year on R&D projects, research and development through the commercialisation. And so my role is around project selection, project prioritisation, and how we should need to help to fit that R&D spend into our corporate budget and profitability for our shareholders. With the advice part, I'd say that a genuine curiosity to always be learning new things within your field as you go deeper, but also to try to get some more experience of breadth as well as depth. You can be very specialised, but I think it will serve you very well over an overall career if you're also looking adjacent in related fields to what we're looking at. And I think as a scientist, the science is very much the basis and the core, but there comes a point in commercialisation where the science becomes the given. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of clever stuff going on, but it becomes the given, and the science can be great or whatever, but at the end, in a commercial environment, it needs to actually lead to positive patient outcomes that have an economic value. And so when I look at portfolio, we have the scientists will give us their opinions and likelihoods of success, but really whether that project succeeds or not and gets through to commercialization is around, is there a patient population out there that this is serving well enough to create an economic return? So I think it'd be a very important and very good thing for a career to get some experience on the commercial and economics side. It doesn't have to be deep, but an understanding of how R&D projects are valued and where the economics comes from. And if I was going to say about mentoring and things in that field, definitely worth having a chat with business development people. So at CSL, part of my role is doing economic modelling of projects where we want to out-license or in-license. And so we work out what the deal terms need to be with the opposite party. And to do that, we have to understand the economic value of the project, and then from there we work out how much that value do we take versus the other party.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Like Ian, I'm Chief Executive Officer of a Corporate Research Centre, the Hearing Corporate Research Centre, and also I manage HearWorks, which is our commercialization company. We license, sell, provide technology to industry partners like Cochlear, Siemens, most of the major hearing aid companies and audiological equipment manufacturers. And we also provide service solutions to government, Australian Hearing for one, and many of the hospitals around Australia and internationally use our technology. Half the world's hearing aids are fitted using our technology. And all of that return comes back into be reinvested in research. We have 26 member organizations, and we've been operating since 1992. So we've been relatively successful in terms of translation of research out into outcomes.
Excellent.
So,
and the second question to that is?
So the advice I would give is, similar to what I've heard already, is you really, often in academics, you try and think of a solution. In CRCs, we go the opposite way. We try and find out what's a problem from our end users, and clearly identify who those stakeholders are. And it may not be who you think. It may not be the company. It's actually their customers, or maybe the agents that make the decisions. So the key thing is to work out who makes the decisions about whether or not something is going to be used, because what you're really trying to do is change behavior. You're trying to change the behavior of the end users to use whatever new product you brought out, and that might be a physician, it might be an end user, whatever. So for your careers, it's the same thing. I think what I'm trying to say to you is translation doesn't happen by accident, and while there's a bit of serendipitous luck in it sometimes, your career doesn't happen by accident either. And you should really be thinking about, well, where do I want to be in 10 years' time? That seems like a long way out, right? But 10 years' time, where do I want to be? Not so much where could I be now, but where could I be in 10 years' time? What might happen? And so what skills do I need to acquire to get there? And have a roadmap that you actually follow through, and that's the best way to be successful, just like we do with translation.
I'm Sam Busfield. I'm the VP of Research for NextVet, which is a small startup company based here in Melbourne, focused on taking antibody drugs into the veterinary medicine market. My role, or the research team's role, is really quite a broad one because we're a small company. So identifying unmet veterinary needs, identifying targets and taking them all the way through to proof of concept so that we can pass it off into veterinary clinicians. My role in that is making sure that the team is resourced and has what it needs to do that, but it's meeting with the right people and has the right collaborators and working with our executive team really to set the strategy and make sure that we're on track.
Excellent. And what advice would you give people starting out?
Very similar to what's being said, and I guess with the aim of if you wanted to move into research and industry, be good at what you do, so focus on what you do, but while you're in your initial stages of postdoc and training, really be a sponge. Learn as much as you can, whether that's techniques, whether it's other projects, whether it's how things are done, because very rarely do you end up in industry specialising in what you might have done in your postdoc, I think. And so having a more widespread view on science and what you can do bodes well in industry.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Well, let's move on to the session now. So what we're going to do, we're going to break you guys up into 7 groups. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's a blue paper behind that wall there, which makes up the 7. Each of you have got a number on your tag. It's not a dog fight, okay? It just means they're going to be in 1 of the 7 groups. That's what it does. So what we're going to do, from now on, forget the timers at the moment, because we are ahead of schedule. We're going to turn around and we're going to have 2 topics that you guys are going to discuss, each group. And the topic is behind the blue chart, okay? Because we don't want to give you guys the question beforehand, because you'll probably be thinking about it right now. So can I ask you all to go to your individual spots? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Each one of the mentors will, in other words, actually chair the session.
The question we had was what can help or improve research commercialization partnerships. We as Group 1 basically took this question and applied it to an academia industry partnership model.
If there wasn't a correct strategic alignment between the partnerships, we felt the partnership would be hindered or fail. And this came down to issues of communication. There should be good communication between the partners.
The first point I'm going to talk about is to improve how we co-locate geographically.
Our second highlight is agreements for publishing that satisfies both parties.
Having a shared scope or shared budget, milestones, outcomes, deliverables, just having the right target and end goals in mind among all the partners.
The key point is really to have great science. If you have great science, that's not gonna hinder you.